Welcome to Understanding the Bible with Pastor Stephen. This is Season 4, Episode 3, Heroes, Caleb. So today we're going to be talking about one of the Old Testament heroes that you may have heard about, but he's got a little interesting fact about him that I wanted to share. Now, last time we talked about the heroes, we had covered Jael. There was two very interesting things about her. Of course, she was a woman. Back in that time period, to kill a man as a woman was a huge thing. And she, in fact, got mentioned in a song in the Old Testament. So she got 2 chapters of the Bible kind of dedicated to her story, which is really significant for that time period and that part of the world to recognize a woman. But the other interesting thing about her was she was a foreigner. She was a Kenite, a nomad tribe. And that was the tribe actually that Moses had married into. So it was the in-laws of Moses was this woman who ended up saving Israel, which is pretty cool. So this time we'll talk about Caleb. Let's get into it. The first mention of Caleb was when he was a spy. And that is in the book of Numbers when Moses took the children of Israel into the promised land. And right before they got there, they sent these spies in to check it out and see what it was all about. So let's take a look at it and see what Caleb said in Numbers 13. Starting in verse 2, Moses is told, "Send men that they may search the land of Canaan, which I gave into the children of Israel, or give unto the children of Israel. Of every tribe of their fathers shall you send a man, every one a ruler among them." So out of the 12 tribes of Israel, pick a ruler from each tribe. Okay. Verse 3, "And Moses, by the commandment of the Lord, sent them from the wilderness of Paran. All those men were heads of the children of Israel, and these were their names. Of the tribe of Reuben, Shammua, the son of Zachar. Of the tribe of Simeon, Shaphat, the son of Hori. And of the tribe of Judah, Caleb, the son of Jephunneh." And then they carry on and name all the rest of them. Verse 16, "These are the names of the men which Moses sent to spy out the land." Verse 21, "So they went up and searched the land from the wilderness of Zin unto Rehob, as men come to Hamath. And they ascended by the south and came unto Hebron, where Ahiman, Sheshai, and Talmai, the children of Anak, were. Now Hebron was built 7 years before Zoan in Egypt." Excuse me. So here's an interesting point, and you'd have to go back further in the Old Testament to read this about the children of Anak. These were the giants from the days of Noah. So it's very interesting if you follow this through the entire Old Testament, and they actually end with the family, I want to say it's in Gath, of Goliath, that David and Goliath fought. All right, so this is that family, the giants. Verse 23, "And they came unto the brook of Eshcol, and cut down from thence a branch with one cluster of grapes, and they bare it between 2 upon a staff. And they brought of the pomegranates and of the figs." Now think of this, one bunch of grapes that is so big it takes 2 men to carry it on a staff on their shoulders. That's some pretty interesting grapes. Now, I don't know how big the grapes were, and they might have been normal, but the clusters were just huge. But the point is, this land was filled with lots of fruit, okay? They had lots of, Jesus or God said it was the land flowing with milk and honey, right? And it was the idea that this was their promised land where they wouldn't have to worry about anything and they'd have peace. Well, here's some of the food they brought back. Verse 24, "The place was called the brook Eshcol because of the cluster of grapes which the children of Israel cut down from thence. And they returned from searching of the land after 40 days. And they went and came to Moses, and lo, Aaron, and to all the congregation of the children of Israel, unto the wilderness of Paran to Kadesh, and brought back word unto them, and unto all the congregation, and showed them the fruit of the land. And they told him and said, We came into the land whither thou sentest us, and surely it floweth with milk and honey, and this is the fruit of it. Nevertheless, the people be strong that dwell in the land, and the cities are walled, and very great, and moreover we saw the children of Anak there." So this is not a new thing. That Israel, back in Egypt, had heard of these giants. That's the point. They knew the family of Anak was huge, gigantic people. And when I say family, we're talking a whole tribe that spread over a great region. We're not talking just, 7 or 8 people. We're talking about the cousins, the grandparents, the second cousins, the third cousins, the in-laws. We're talking about the huge tribes back then when they say this, okay? So Anak or Anakim have been known since the beginning of time as being the race of giants. Verse 30. And Caleb stilled the people before Moses and said, "Let us go up at once and possess it, for we are able to overcome it." So Caleb was the first voice of objection, saying, hey, don't worry about how big they are. Let's go take it over because God promised it to us, right? Verse 31, but the men that went up with him said, "We be not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we." And they brought up an evil report of the land which they had searched unto the children of Israel, saying, "The land through which we have gone to search it is a land that eateth up the inhabitants thereof, and all the people that we saw in it are men of a great stature, tall. And there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak." So the whole land is filled with people bigger than the Israelites, okay? And there are giants there, the sons of Anak, which come of the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. Now, if you think generations later, we're talking at least 1,000 years later, I think. I'm going to have to double check that. Hang on one second. Okay, so I just had to Google it, but this was about 430 years after this happened, where David and Goliath had their great battle. So we're talking most of the giants were dead. 400 years later, their offspring, their generations have watered down their DNA. They're probably smaller. That's just the way humans work, right? We don't have a lot of giants running around now, although there's some 7, 8, 9 foot tall people in the world. It's very rare, okay? So Goliath was 9 feet tall. It's like 9.5 feet tall. 400 years later. That's what I'm talking about here. So these guys were probably over 10 feet tall is my guess. And then we jump to Numbers 14:1. And all the congregation lifted up their voices and cried, and the people wept that night. And all the children of Israel murmured against Moses and against Aaron, and the whole congregation said unto them, "Would God that we had died in the land of Egypt, or would God we had died in this wilderness? And wherefore hath the Lord brought us into this land to fall by the sword, that our wives and our children should be a prey? Were it not better for us to return into Egypt?" And they said one to another, "Let us make a captain, and let us return into Egypt." Then Moses and Aaron fell on their faces before all the assembly of the congregation of the children of Israel. And Joshua the son of Nun, and Caleb the son of Jephunneh, which were of them that searched the land, rent their clothes. And they spake unto all the company of the children of Israel, saying, "The land which we passed through to search it is an exceeding good land. If the Lord delight in us, then he will bring us into this land and give it us, a land which floweth with milk and honey. Only rebel not ye against the Lord, neither fear ye the people of the land, for they are bread for us. Their defense is departed from them, and the Lord is with us. Fear them not." But all the congregation bade stone them with stones. So 2 people stood up and said, "We came out of Egypt. God did miracles for us. God promised us this land. He's going to give us this land. Let's fight." And the people wanted to kill them and stone them to death. And the glory of the Lord appeared in the tabernacle of the congregation before all the children of Israel. God saved the lives of Caleb and Joshua, right? Verse 11, "And the Lord said unto Moses, How long will this people provoke me, and how long will it be ere they believe me for all the signs which I have shown unto them? I will smite them with the pestilence and disinherit them, and will make of thee a greater nation and mightier than they." Now this is where Moses begs God to change his mind. Verse 13, "And Moses said unto the Lord, Then the Egyptians shall hear it. For thou broughtest up this people in thy might from among them, and they will tell it to the inhabitants of this land." And he continues on and makes his argument for God to save the people, to not kill them. And verse 20, God promises the judgment on the people. This is where you get the 40 years of wandering in the desert. And the Lord said, I have pardoned according to thy word, but as truly as I live, all the earth shall be filled with the glory of the Lord, because all those men which have seen my glory and my miracles, which I did in Egypt and in the wilderness, and have tempted me now these 10 times, and have not hearkened to my voice, surely they shall not see the land, which I swear unto their fathers, neither shall any of them that provoked me see it. But my servant Caleb, because he had another spirit with him, and hath followed me fully, him will I bring into the land whereinto he went, and his seed shall possess it. So all the adults are going to die because they murmured against God and didn't want to go into the land, except for Caleb and Joshua. And he mentions it several times throughout the Old Testament here that Caleb and Joshua were the only 2 good spies. Verse 30. Doubtless you shall not come into the land, concerning which I swore to make you dwell therein, save Caleb the son of Jephunneh and Joshua the son of Nun. But your little ones, which you said should be a prey, them will I bring in, and they will know the land which you have despised. So you said you're all going to be killed by these giants, except even your little children are going to die because of these giants. And in fact, that's not true. Your little children will come in and take the land from them. Verse 32, but as for you, your carcasses, they shall fall in this wilderness. And your children shall wander in the wilderness 40 years, and bear your whoredoms until your carcasses be wasted in the wilderness. 40 years. So we're talking probably every kid, every person that was not considered an adult, I'm guessing under the age of 30. So the oldest person there is probably going to be 69 years old or 70 years old, except for Caleb and Joshua. They're older, okay, when they finally come in to take the land. So that was the first cool thing, is the land. They were spies. Caleb was one of the heads of the tribes of Israel. But then we get to the end, after the 40 years of wandering in the desert, and this is the cool part, and this is why he fits in the hero category for me. Joshua 14:5. As the Lord commanded Moses, so the children of Israel did, and they divided the land. Then the children of Judah came unto Joshua in Gilgal, and Caleb the son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite said unto him, Thou knowest the thing that the Lord said unto Moses, the man of God, concerning me and thee in Kadesh Barnea. So he's coming to Joshua, the other spy that was good, and he's saying, look, I know you're in charge of the people, but you got to remember what Moses said. Moses said that I would get some of the land, okay? 40 years old was I when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land, and I brought him word again as it was in my heart. Nevertheless, my brethren that went up with me made the heart of the people melt, but I wholly followed the Lord my God. And Moses sware on that day, saying, Surely the land whereon thy feet have trodden shall be thine inheritance, and thy children's forever, because thou hast wholly followed the Lord my God. And now, behold, the Lord hath kept me alive, as he said, these 45 years. So they've spent 5 years. He's 85 years old. But they've spent the last 5 years going through the land, conquering it, and driving the people out, and taking Canaan for the 12 tribes, right? So let's continue in verse 10 here. These 45 years, even since the Lord spake this word unto Moses, while the children of Israel wandered in the wilderness, and now, lo, I am this day 85 years old. As yet I am as strong this day as I was in the day that Moses sent me. As my strength was then, even so is my strength now for war, both to go out and to come in. Now therefore give me this mountain, whereof the Lord spake in that day. For thou heardest in that day how the Anakims were there, and that the cities were great and fenced. If so be the Lord with me, then I shall be able to drive them out, as the Lord said. And Joshua blessed him, and gave unto Caleb the son of Jephunneh Hebron for an inheritance. Hebron therefore became the inheritance of Caleb the son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite unto this day, because that he wholly followed the Lord God of Israel. So get this. You got to read the whole story. Read the whole chapters. Remember, I've mentioned this before. But they divided up the land among all the 12 tribes. And here's Caleb saying, I'm supposed to get a special portion of land, like my own part amongst the tribes. Everyone's picked their part. Why was that mountain left? Because it still had the giants in it. They had defeated everyone in the land of Israel, except for this mountain where apparently the giants had ran to hide. And the 12 tribes didn't want it. They were still scared to take the mountain with the giants in it. And here's the oldest man there, Caleb, 85 years old. And he says, I'll take that mountain. Remember the promise? You owe me some extra land. That's the land I want. And Joshua, the other spy, who was probably 85 years old too, is like, okay, old man, I remember you from ages back. Yeah, you were a good dude back then. And I do remember the promise that Moses gave to you. So sure, it's all yours. They were like warriors, blood brothers for the last 45 years. And all the other guys had died off. Here's the oldest man of Israel saying, I'll fight the giants. Pretty crazy, huh? Then you look at the next chapter, Joshua 15, just a couple verses here and we'll finish up. Starting in verse 14. And Caleb drove thence the 3 sons of Anak, Sheshai and Ahiman and Talmai, the children of Anak. 3 families of giants that lived there. And there's one sentence talking about this 85-year-old man, how he destroyed them all. And he went up thence to the inhabitants of Debir, and the name of Debir before was Kirjath Sepher. Now, I know I probably got some of these names wrong, but understand that whoever escaped probably left the country or went to a neighboring country and survived. Because obviously there was one family, one group of these giants that were still there. And the reason I say that is because of in Gath, 400 years later, we have Goliath and his brothers. So there is still somebody escaped. So my guess, maybe a giantess, maybe a woman that they let live or that escaped because she was sent away or something. I don't know. But if you read the rest of the Bible in the Old Testament, it tells you that the Goliath and his brothers were descendants of these people. So I misspoke when I said he killed them all. Obviously, one of them escaped, okay? Anyways, verse 16. And Caleb said, now this is cool, he that smiteth this city, Kirjath Sepher, and taketh it, to him will I give Achsah my daughter to wife. And Othniel, the son of Kenaz, the brother of Caleb, took it, and he gave him Achsah his daughter to wife. And it came to pass, as she came unto him, Caleb, that she asked him to ask of her father a field. Sorry, let me rephrase. Let me read that. I keep skipping over words here. Verse 18, and it came to pass, as she came unto him, that she moved him to ask of her father a field. And she lighted off her ass, and Caleb said unto her, What wouldest thou? Who answered, Give me a blessing, for thou hast given me a south land, give me also springs of water. And he gave her the upper springs and the nether springs. This is the inheritance of the tribe of the children of Judah according to their families. So why is Caleb a hero? Well, obviously his honor, his faith in God, his strength, the fact that he came back at the beginning as one of the 12 spies and said, let's do this thing, let's attack these people, God will give them into our hand, right? And then when he was older at the end, where he actually did it again, he spent 5 years helping the other 12 tribes of Israel get their land, fighting. Can you imagine being on the warpath fighting for 5 solid years? Not very many people do that, okay? Usually you have your fight, you have your battle, and then you go back home. But he traveled around the country or countries, conquering the land for 5 years, and not until they had divided up the land at the very end, and he's 85 years old, that he says, you know what, now I want to settle down and have land. And then look at the way he dealt with honor with his daughter. Treating her as an equal and negotiating to give her more land, or her husband more land. I think that was pretty cool, pretty honorable. And not even that, but his test for his future son-in-law. He's like, hey, I've spent 5 years here fighting. 40 years ago, I was ready to fight, and I'm still fighting, and I'm going to fight for this land. And I'll tell you what, nobody's going to marry my daughter unless he's a fighter too. And he laid that challenge down. If you want my daughter, you got to take this city. And Othniel did it. So I just think it's pretty cool. You don't hear all the details. It doesn't really give you all the things he did. I'm sure there were some great feats of strength and superb fighting skill and battle tactics and things like that to conquer giants in the land. But what can we learn from Caleb? Be bold and courageous. Never fear anything to where it changes what you're going to do. You see, courage is boldness in face of fear. It's not being fearless. So it's okay to be fearful, but you still have to be bold. Caleb knew the danger, but he still believed God would give them the land. He was willing to fight. Don't forget to use the unique traits that God has given you to your advantage, regardless of age. Caleb was 85 and he still fought giants. So always work to better yourself. Don't let age slow you down. Yet know your limits. Don't be stupid, okay? But don't be afraid to fight for what is right and to test your family. Be manly. Don't fear that. Or be feminine. Don't fear that. He was not afraid to test the skill of his son-in-law and require proof that the man was worthy to be part of his family. The daughter was of the same bloodline, and she dared to negotiate with her father, which was unheard of back then, and ask for more. Women didn't do that. Women didn't have a say in the past. Push yourself and your family to do great things. And of course, remember, killing is not always a sin. Sometimes it's necessary, especially in war. And here's something Americans have forgotten. War is a place where reason has already lost. All right? It is brute strength. The brute wins. So if there's no way to reason, there's no way to negotiate, and people are killing you and your family, if you don't fight, you're dead. So there is nothing wrong with fighting in war, okay? Let me end with a couple of Bible verses. You've heard these before. Isaiah 41:10. Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee. Yea, I will help thee. Yea, I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness. And Exodus 15:3, the Lord is a man of war. The Lord is his name. Until next time, keep searching for the truth. Hey, thanks for listening, guys. I just want to throw out there one more Bible verse, Joshua 1:9. I have that on my Bible cover. It says, have not I commanded thee? Be strong and of a good courage. Be not afraid, neither be thou dismayed. For the Lord thy God is with thee, whithersoever thou goest. I've had this conversation with my daughter, both daughters, many times. Don't be afraid of anything. And when I say that, I'm not saying there's never a reason for fear. I'm saying don't let your fear stop you from doing the right thing. It's great if you don't have any fear. But even the men of God had fear when they saw angels or when God appeared to them or when the enemy came. It's not always that you should not be afraid. Sometimes there's a reason for fear, okay? But who do we fear more? The God who created us or a simple human being that can only hurt our body? They can't destroy our soul. They can't send us to hell. At the worst case scenario, I always say is that, you know what? If I go and do this and I die, I'll be in heaven with God. How is that bad for me? Now, yeah, granted, it's bad for my family, but in the worst case scenario, I am sent to a better place where there's no more fear, no more pain, no more death, no more sorrow. Basically, with God, right? So why should we be afraid? Have courage. Conquer your fear. Accept your fear that you may have and move forward anyways. That's the purpose. That's the point of having courage. Is don't let the fear freeze you, debilitate you, or I can't think of the right word, where it just makes you not able to accomplish anything. Don't let fear do that. Remember who you have on your side. Follow the Lord. God is always with you. Don't be afraid of anything. Read Psalm 23. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, right? Be prepared to fight the evil, but don't let it stop you. Thanks for listening, guys. Until next time, keep searching for the truth.